So we now continue with GST. So we had done the first exercise 1A from Concise in our last video. Now we are going to see the second exercise, and before we understand the second exercise, let us understand what is involved in that exercise. Now in the second exercise we are going to understand that what is the amount a shopkeeper or a seller needs to pay to the government when he has collected that money from the client. Okay, so if a person is selling something and he gets that amount, which was the bill value, which we understood in the last videos, that how the bill values are calculated, the amount and the discounts, and then the SP, and then you are adding the sales tax on that particular amount, and you get a complete bill. So a person is going to pay, let's take an example. So we have over here, that example is that we will say that the shopkeeper is a shopkeeper, and he buys so CP of the shopkeeper is rupees, let's say 1,000. So he is buying something for rupees 1,000. And he is paying a tax of 10% on this thing. So accordingly it will be 110. So it will be 1,100 rupees is the total CP of the material. Okay, this is what the shopkeeper is buying this material for. Now if he is selling the material, so SP over here is given as, let's see, selling it at 1,200 rupees. Then the tax is 10%. Accordingly 120 rupees will be the tax. Accordingly it will be given as 1,320 as the amount what he is going to collect, okay, while selling that item. So if we consider this way, कि अगर उसने he has already paid 100 rupees as taxation while buying the product, and he is going to collect 120 when he is selling the product, then if he needs to give this also to the government, then the government is getting a huge amount of money just in a small transaction of 1,200 rupees. Try to understand this thing. This is slightly confusing, but at the same time very important to understand. We cannot escape from this particular understanding. So let's understand this way, that when a person buys a material, he is going to pay a tax, obviously, because every transaction which is going to take place, it is going to be taxed. So that's why he's going to pay a tax on that particular thing. So the buyer, the shopkeeper, he bought the article for 1,000 rupees, which landed him up at 1,100 rupees. And we're selling the item for 1,200 rupees. At that time, he is collecting 120 rupees as tax, which he is supposed to pay to the government. If that happens, then the government has already got for just 1,200 rupees of sales as total as 220 rupees, which is like too high a percentage as taxes. In that case, if 5 people are going to sell the material, the same material forward, then the amount of tax which the government will be getting will be more than the cost of the article itself. So that is why government made a very good solution to this thing, and that is the government will be given only the amount, or the GST payable to the government will be given by the formula. So GST payable is given by the formula as output tax minus input tax. It is output tax minus input tax. What do you mean by output tax? Output tax is when I am selling the material. That is the output tax. What is input tax? When he bought the material for himself, at that time whatever is the tax is the input tax. So accordingly, the tax payable to the government will be, the output tax is 120, input tax is rupees 100, automatically he pays only 20 rupees to the government. Got it? He is going to pay only 20 rupees as the sales tax or the GST payable to the government. the government will receive only 20 rupees from the shopkeeper. We are not talking about the previous one. Maybe the manufacturer will give the complete amount because for him the output tax, there is no input tax. There is no input tax because it is zero. Suppose the manufacturer because the manufacturer is manufacturing that product, that's why for him it is the complete tax. So that will be the first one will be, or we'll just discuss that thing also, that how the chain gives the money. But here the main thing is that the GST is payable equal to the output tax minus input tax. In other ways, you will also find that this amount is exactly the 10% of the profit what he is making on that transaction. Be very attentive. I'll explain once again. This 20 rupees subsequently is also the tax amount on the profit what he is getting in that transaction. That is why the GST is also called as value addition cost. Value added tax. It is based on the principle of value added tax, which was originally called as VAT. It is the same principle, value added tax. Why value added? So this, what was the value of the article at the start? It was 1000. What did it become later on? 1200. So what is the value added by the shopkeeper? How much is the profit? Profit is nothing but the value added by the customer, by the shopkeeper. Shopkeeper made the, suppose I tell about this pen. अगर मैंने 1000 rupees में खरीदा और उसको 1200 में बेचा. So what is the value I added to this thing? I added 200 rupees to this particular thing. So that's why 200 rupees is the value I added. 200 का 10% कितना होता है? 20 rupees. So you can see that this can be seen that GST is also equal to ST% of profit. So there are two formulas for GST payable. One formula will be output tax minus input tax, and the other formula could be ST% of profit. Now, ST% of profit, if you are seeing, it will be slightly confusing. Why? Because profit over here is only on direct CP and SP, not this price. This price over here has no meaning when you are calculating the profit. At the time of profit, you are, भले वो हम लोग बोलते हैं कि अरे मैंने देते वक्त तो 1100 दिया ना. While buying the material, did I give only rupees 1000? No, I gave 1100. Still, I will consider that the CP of that article for me is 1000 and not 1100. Why? Because whatever tax I am collecting, out of the tax, I am getting a refund of this what tax I paid back. Listen once again carefully. I paid rupees 1100 for an article which was 1000 rupees. So I paid rupees 100 additional S tax amount while buying the article. I am selling the article at 1200, but actually I am collecting 1320. So out of this 1320, 1200 is my goods value, जिसके अंदर 200 रुपया profit आ गया. And out of this 120 extra, 100 rupees is what I am going to get as a refund of my tax which I already paid while buying. And baki ka 20 rupees I am giving to the government. So that's why when you are trying to find out the sales tax using the profit method, remember, using the profit method ke time pe, the profit is only SP minus CP without the taxes. SP also without the tax, CP also without the tax. The raw amount of the SP and CP, उन दोनों का subtraction is your profit. And वो profit का ST% is the GST payable to the government. Is it clear? So, We see here that GST payable can be calculated by two methods. One method is by output tax by input. This is much simpler as such, except for the fact that what will be happening to the manufacturer part that we'll be seeing in the next part. So output minus input becomes much more simpler because आउटपुट टैक्स यानी क्या, पूरा का पूरा बिल निकाला कि आउटपुट उसमें, सॉरी आउटपुट टैक्स यानी क्या, जब मैंने बेचा तो कितनी, लाइक दिस output tax is 120 because that is the amount of tax which I have collected from my customer while I sold that material to him. So that is 120 rupees. And while buying the material from the manufacturer, at that time I paid a tax of 100 rupees. So that's why output tax is 120, input tax is 100. Accordingly, the tax payable to the government will be 20 rupees. Understood? So this is how we are going to calculate the taxation for GST. So GST is applicable in a manner that output tax minus input tax. Now another important thing is that output tax input tax is much more convenient in other ways also, because it may happen that you may buy a raw material and you are selling a finished good. So let's take an example of that thing. Okay, what we see is, let's consider the complete story now. So let's see this, that there is one manufacturer. So the manufacturer is going to manufacture something and he sells it to the wholesaler. Wholesaler sells it to the retailer and the retailer sells it to the consumer. Okay. So, manufacturer is making the material, he is selling it to the wholesaler gives it to the retailer and the retailer gives it to the customer. Okay, so we consumer, the customer, there is a consumer. So suppose there is a article which the manufacturing is selling at rupees 1000. So the SP of the manufacturer is 1000 rupees. Suppose we take the taxation to be 10%, we are considering as GST as IGST and सब कुछ जो है outside state में था तो सब कुछ IGST है, CGST SGST को बाद में जान लेते हैं, पहले हम लोग सिर्फ एक normal taxation लेते हैं. So we take it as IGST. So IGST, suppose it is only 10%. Accordingly, the tax amount will be equal to rupees 100. So in such a case, for the manufacturer, what is the input tax? Nothing, because he made that thing. Of course, raw material ka jo rahega, we are not seeing that. It will be too complicated. So we are not seeing that in your syllabus. So we are considering that the manufacturer makes the material. It is the first time that the manufacturer has made the material. Hence, it is being sold for the first time. And hence, whatever is the value over here will be completely taxed, because what is the tax GST payable? GST is output minus input tax. So what is the output tax? It is 100. What is the input? 0, because it was not initially available. तभी कोई कुछ खरीदा ही नहीं था. So it was the first time it is being sold. That's why it is 0. Hence the government gets rupees 100 from the manufacturer. So the manufacturer is going to pay to the government 100 rupees for this particular transaction. Clear? So now this data is some data for the wholesaler. So we know that CP for the wholesaler is rupees 1000. He has already paid input tax. Input tax is rupees 100. Okay. Let's consider his SP to be rupees 1100. Okay, SP is 1100. So accordingly, his output tax will be equal to rupees 110 rupees. Got it? So accordingly, we will see what will be the tax he is going to pay. So according to the GST rule, we have got the output minus input. So output tax minus input tax is going to be 110 minus 100 is equals to rupees 10. So this wholesaler, when he is going to make his payment to the government, he is going to pay only rupees 10 as the tax against the transaction. Okay, he sold it for 1,100, he bought it for 1,000 rupees, and the amount what he is going to pay to the government will be only rupees 10. That is like this, output minus input as rupees 10. We see further, now this retailer, he bought it for 1,100, so his CP is rupees 1,100. So his input tax is rupees 110. And he sells this article for rupees 1,500 to the customer. Always the retailer जो रहता है shop में बहुत कमाते हैं उन लोग. So he is going to 1,500. So his output tax is going to be rupees 10% of 1,500, so 150 rupees. So what is the GST he is going to pay? The GST what this person is going to pay will be output tax minus input tax is equals to 150 minus 110 is equals to 40 rupees. Got it? So according to the consumer has now bought the article for rupees. So what is the consumer is going to pay? Is going to pay 1,500 rupees plus 150 rupees. So total 1,650 is what the consumer pays, which he does not get any refund for because he is going to use it for his own purpose. So this is the last transaction, that this 1,600 is the cost of the material to the customer. The consumer is going to buy this article which was originally 1,000 rupees at rupees 1,650 rupees, which included all the profits also in between. So the consumer absorbs all the taxation and everything. All are going to be incorporated in his prices. Now let us understand the second theory. What was the second theory? The tax is payable based on the profit. Okay, this you understood as the output and input tax. Very simple. Iska input tax kya tha? 0. Output tax 100. So he is paying rupees 100 to the government. He is paying output minus input, 110 minus 100, 110 rupees, only 10 rupees. 150 minus 110, so 40 rupees is what he is going to pay. So totally what the government received in the end of the transaction was 100 plus 10 plus 40, which is equals to rupees 150. And you will see that that is also the tax which the consumer paid at the last. That means the government always receives only 10%. That is, of course, because the rest person was 10%. If it is 18%, then government receives 18%. If the tax is 5%, the government receives only 5%. Of the last transaction, government will always receive the ST% of the last transaction as the total money in the complete chain of transaction. फिर भले में यहाँ पे मैन्युफैक्चर के बाद में एक होलसेलर 1 हो, फिर होलसेलर 2, फिर होलसेलर 3, फिर रिटेलर 1, रिटेलर 2, रिटेलर 3, and then it reaches the consumer. हो सकता है ना, बहुत टाइम ऐसा होता है that there is a manufacturer, the manufacturer is in Delhi, then he sells it to somebody, a dealer who is in main dealer who is in Delhi, then he sells it to somebody who is in Maharashtra, then that person sells it to Mumbai, then Mumbai वाला जो है वो सेंटर वाला है वो अंधेरी वाले में बेचेगा, और वो अंधेरी वाला जो है वो लास्ट में वो एक शॉप पे बेचेगा जो अंधेरी में है, तो ऐसे, और उसके बाद हम लोग जाके उससे खरीदने जाएंगे. So there would be a long chain for this particular material to reach that last person. So you can see that over here, this one is going to pay 100, this is going to pay 10, and this is going to pay 40. So total is 150, which is nothing but the ST% of the last transaction. Now let us see also the second method of the transaction of calculating the GST, and that is by the profit method. Now in the profit method, what we see is that the amount what will be paid as the GST will be the value which the person is adding, or the profit which the person is making in the transaction. So that is why it is going to be ST% of profit. तो मैन्युफैक्चरर के लिए क्या है, ये पूरा का पूरा उसका प्रॉफिट है. ओके, वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू कंसिडर कि वो अरे उसका ये लगा वो लगा, नहीं, वो उसका मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कॉस्ट वगैरह. हम लोग के लिए सिंपल थिंग इज दैट दिस इज हिज value added by him. This is the value what he gave to that particular item for the first time. That's why we give it as a complete value. So profit is nothing but ST%. So it is 10% of 1000. Accordingly, it is rupees 100. Now, what is the value added by the wholesaler? Wholesaler added the value as rupees 100 because उसने जो 1000 rupees में खरीदा वो उसने 1100 में बेचा. So when he is selling that item at 1100 which is bought for 1000, that means he has added a value of rupees 100 to the item. Hence that the profit is rupees 100. Accordingly, it will be 20% of 100 is rupees 10. This is the same as this one. The next is this one. This person, he made a profit of 400 rupees. So you know the profit will be 400. So it is 10% of 400. So that is nothing but 40 rupees. That is exactly the same what was here. So you can see that even when you do this method, that it is the ST% of profit. What is the amount given paid by the person? The amount paid by the person to the government will be ST% of profit. Okay? Now, one very important exception is there for profit part. What is that? In case there is a change in the rate of the sales tax between its buying and selling, then this is not applicable. I'll give an example. We'll start with we'll show you an example. I think this is very clear now. It's very clear that a person who is manufacturing it will pay the complete tax to the government. The next person will be paying the tax only on the value he has added to that particular thing, or we can say the profit. So his ST on the profit, that is only 10. Here the profit is 400, so he's paying 40 rupees. So overall, whatever is the total tax what is going to be paid will be sum of all this thing, which will also be equal to the tax which was the last tax amount. Okay, the last tax amount, the last output tax what the last retailer sold it at, that is also the same as what the government received. So let's see the other part, what exception what I am talking about. So let's consider that is this particular manufacturer and then wholesaler. So ये part जरूरत नहीं है इसमें. So the manufacturer, we first consider the manufacturer now, or we consider that not manufacturer and wholesaler, we just consider a shopkeeper or a person A. We'll take a person A and then a person B. Now suppose the person A is a tailor. Okay, the person A is a tailor and he bought cloth. So he bought cloth. So the cloth costed him rupees 1000. So he's buying a cloth which was worth rupees 1000. The cloth is only got 5% as the sales tax. Therefore, the sales tax is only rupees 50. So his tax over here is only 50. And then he is going to sell a shirt. The cloth is converted into a shirt and he sells the shirt at rupees 2000. And the tax of the shirt, suppose the tax of the shirt is 10%. Because now the shirt is not a simple cloth. The shirt now is a finished product. A shirt is a finished product which may have a different sales tax rate as compared to the cloth. The cloth will have a very small amount because it is a necessity, whereas when it is converted into a commodity, it is converted into something which is enhancing its value, that is a shirt or something like that, then it is becoming 10%. So because it is about 10%, so when he is selling this particular thing, he is going to sell it at a tax which will be 200 rupees. So now you can see that if I talk about his profit is rupees 1000. So based on that, if I find out the ST of profit, ST% of profit will be equal to 10% of rupees 1000 will be equal to rupees 100. So actually, as per profit, we should pay only 100, but this is wrong. What he will be paying will be output tax minus input tax, which is equals to 200 minus 50 is equals to rupees 150. This is the amount, 150 rupees. Because initially, what is the amount he paid as a tax? Only 50. What is the tax he is going to collect from B? 200 rupees. So what he should pay to the government? The difference of the two, that is 150. That is why it is ideal to use this system rather than this system, especially when you are having different rates of the material. If the ST percent is different for the input and output, input is by a cloth and output is by a shirt, then the rate of tax is different, then you cannot use the profit method. We have to use the output tax minus input tax method. Okay, so it's very important to understand this thing, that the tax payable by any person to the government will be dependent on the output tax minus input tax. What is the output tax? The tax which is applied on the sales price. It is the selling price which is inclusive of all the discounts and everything. So selling price के ऊपर जो भी है, that will be equal to the output tax. And input tax is the cost price के ऊपर जितना भी tax लगा था, whatever tax he paid while buying the material will be the input tax. So tax payable will be output tax minus input tax. If the tax is same, if the tax structure is the same for throughout the transaction, then you can also go for the profit method, where we can say that the sales tax payable will be equal to ST percent of profit. Okay, sales tax payable will be ST percent of profit. Now, one more important thing will be that the person will pay to the government in what manner. So, which way it is going to be this? Like for example, you have got three headings. One is IGST, other is CGST, and last is SGST. So, if we consider that the person has bought the material under IGST, right, and is selling the material in under CGST, SGST, then automatically you will calculate the amount payable to the government in separate manner. Like for example, suppose the IGST for the incoming material was rupees 900, whereas the CGST for both of them was equals to 600 each. So that means the original tax input tax was 900, whereas the output tax was 1200, but 1200 was not one single amount, it was divided into two parts, 600 and 600. Then what will happen? First of all, this 600 will be paid from this 900. Accordingly, CGST payable will be automatically we can say adjusted from the IGST. So adjustment from the IGST will first take place in the CGST. Why? Because both are central governments. IGST is also central government, CGST is also central government. इसीलिए जो भी पैसे पहले जो pay करना है, this is what he needs to pay. How much? He needs to pay 300 rupees. But to whom? As this one or this one? That is the important question. Why I am discussing this is that when you are asked that what is the amount payable, then amount payable is under the heading of CGST or under the heading of SGST is what you need to understand. You need to understand that what will be adjusted with this and what will not be adjusted, and we need to pay. So again we see that the output tax minus input tax के हिसाब से it should be output tax is 1200 and this is 900. So accordingly he has to pay 300 rupees. Yeah, 300 rupees he has to pay. There is no doubt about it. But whether he is going to pay it to the central government or the state government, that is the question. Whether he is going to pay the central, state or the central, that's the question. So always remember, out of this 900, 600 is going to go to the central government. Okay? So ये 600 इसके साथ में पहले हो जाएगा और इसके बाद बचा कितना 300. So here 300 will be out of the 600, 300 is paid over here. So balance 300 is what is over here, which is paying to the central. So state government is going to get rupees 300 from the shopkeeper. Okay, the shopkeeper is going to pay 300 rupees to the state government though he's been paying in the heading of SGST and not in the heading of CGST. Okay, yeah, if it is ulta, he has to pay IGST, then nothing matters because anyway it is going to be clubbed together to one. So here और ये दोनों इसी के साथ होगा. So whenever it is IGST to CGST, at that time we will have to take care of this thing. Right, so we will always see that it is, that's why important to understand that the input credit will be always adjusted. The input credit, this is called as input credit. The input tax is nothing but the input credit. Why is the input credit? Because the person is going to deduct this much amount from the tax he is going to pay to the government. So that's why there is the input credit. So input credit is first going to be adjusted with the central CGST, and then it is going to be adjusted with the SGST, and फिर जो balance बचता है is the amount what he will be paying into the government. So this is how we are going to see. As we see the number of sums, we will be able to understand this one much better. So we will start with exercise 1B in the next video.